Okay, y'all let us know when you're ready. Okay, I'm making sure we didn't lose anybody. Okay, is everyone ready? Okay. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Janice Gilley, Escambia County Administrator, Escambia County, Florida. As it has been reported, the President has provided the Public Assistance Major Declaration for Escambia County. In the announcement, one of the things that they mentioned was that the individual assistance is still under review, and some of the folks here with us today are going to speak about that. We have with us today State Representative Alex Andrade. We have Senator Doug Broxson, Commissioners Berry and Bender. We have the Mayor of the City of Pensacola, and we have Dan Schiebler, the the County Administrator for Santa Rosa County. So I want to be clear about exactly what a public assistance declaration allows, so that we are not being confused with individual assistance. So a public assistance provides for debris removal, roads, bridges, water control facilities, public utilities, parks, recreation, and then also the public buildings. So those are the public infrastructure items that the citizens utilize every single day as part of their normal life in the community. Individual assistance is something that Commissioner Berry will mention. That does include individuals, businesses, and whether it's a single family or a multifamily home, mobile homes, and that like. We also want to make sure that we announce that those individuals at Forest Creek do have an opportunity to go to the Lexington Terrace at 700 Old Corey Field Road, and that particular place is where there's a unit being set up called a Multi-Agency Resource Center, or a MAC is what the state calls them. And that will have entities from Legal Services, the Community Action Program, the Department of Economic Opportunity, the Department of Children and Families, the Department of Elder Affairs, the Department of Health, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the Center for Independent Living, and also Volunteer Florida, along with Catholic Charities. They will be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to assist those families as we continue to find resources for them and their future home. So at this time, I would like to recognize our Chairman of Escambia County Commission, Stephen Berry.
Thank you, Janice. Good afternoon. I do want to talk about the individual assistance portion of the FEMA award. I was disappointed that it wasn't included in the award today, but there's a very clear understanding. I think many of us have had conversations over the last couple of days. There's a very clear understanding that this the application as well as the award is going to be it's a dynamic document to be added to and supplemented to as time goes. Not included. It really goes back to some conversations that were had Monday or Tuesday about needing to get our numbers up, especially on the individual assistance side. We've been told that the folks that were in town and doing assessments on the federal level, didn't see as much damage as they might have thought that they were going to see, or maybe that they've seen in the past. I would dare say that has a lot to do with whether it's a COVID issue and the amount of boots on the ground that were here, or the amount of time that was spent here. There's a tremendous amount of damage. I know it. I know my colleagues know it. We've had 2 board meetings this week, and each of us to a person have lamented the damage and the hurt that's in our communities. So we know it exists. We know as a board and as a county that we deserve the individual assistance part of FEMA's award. We know that our numbers warrant that part. So what we're asking for is what I was asking some media partners for yesterday, and what I'm really going to be pushing for over the next few days. We've set up an email address for citizens. It's hurricanesally@myescambia.com to submit pictures along with their address and a narrative of 200 words or less to document what happened to them, the losses, the impact that Hurricane Sally had on them. It was stood up about lunch yesterday. By this morning, we had 250 responses, which I think is fantastic. But we're really going to need our media partners and us certainly as well to get that word out over the next 3 or 4 days. While it is a dynamic document and a dynamic application, there are timelines that I think, to be candid, we need to understand somewhat exist, and we really need to work. If we look over the next 3 or 4 days to try to get everything we possibly can from citizens to get that application, to get our application as full and complete and comprehensive as possible by maybe Monday, then I think that's a reasonable timeline to try to get that in, to give FEMA the opportunity to evaluate that and to continue to evaluate our individual assistance eligibility. I can't implore to the citizenry how important that aspect is. You know, having been in office for a little while now and serving through the floods of 2014, the individual assistance part is what's going to put money in the citizen's household. I mean, that's where it's going to be direct financial assistance to our residents that have been damaged, that have been harmed. So I don't think the impact of that can be overstated. And I appreciate Jim, kind of mentioning the passion that I was talking to him about with it yesterday. It is very important, and there is an urgency there's a time nature of it, so it is urgent. And I hope that our citizenry will take it up. It's an effort to take the pictures, to upload the pictures, to write a narrative, to recount something that's upsetting to you. But that's what's going to give us the ability to advocate in the best manner for you to be able to get that direct FEMA assistance. And then once our application is up and complete, then we can work hard to advocate with our state and federal partners to get that individual assistance part of it included. But thank you. And Santa Rosa County Administrator Dan Schiebler, I believe, has some comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start where Chairman Berry left off. We're going through that same process in Santa Rosa County. The individual assistance damage assessments are ongoing. Some joint teams with FEMA and Santa Rosa County inspectors have been out in the field the last several days. They report out each night. It's essential that if you've had damage at your home, that you document that damage. You can report it at santarosa.fl.gov and on the damage assessment report right on the front page of our website. If you need to, you can also call the Santa Rosa County Citizen Information Line at 983-INFO to report that damage to your home. It's important that we put together as much substantial documentation and recording of the damage that occurred in your home so we can make that same claim for individual assistance. On the public assistance side, we've been coordinating with the State Department of Emergency Management and FEMA. Those assessments are done. All the Santa Rosa County documentation has been submitted, and we expect a declaration similar to what Escambia County received today. We expect that for Santa Rosa County the first of next week. So as these are two counties connected by many things, most significantly lately bridges, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Broxson for an update on the bridge situation.
Thank you, Dan. First of all, before I get into the bridges, I want to congratulate the two counties for working together and all the mayors. We met with them today. This is a different storm. It's gotten different response from FEMA. Frankly, I'm very disappointed with that. We've checked all the boxes, and there's a narrative out there that just was not a big enough storm to get the attention of the nation that would appall them about what we saw last week. Secondly, the team for FEMA, we'd normally have boots on the ground, 300 or 400 people. Because of COVID, most of these people have to stay home. There's travel restrictions, and that is definitely a factor in prosecuting this storm. I think to be very blunt with you, we've checked every box we've always checked, and we've gotten a different response. That's very disappointing, and hopefully we're going to see something happen more robust next week. We just got off the phone with the Governor's Director of Emergency Management, and he assures us if we continue to do what we're supposed to do, that the state is going to stand with us in making sure that we get the response that we you normally get in these types of disaster. I did want to go over the two bridges. I can tell you that Skanska lost significant equipment. They're bringing new equipment in. They certainly lost one of their larger booms that's sitting on the bottom of the bay right now. They're bringing in bigger equipment, and with a week, they'll have more equipment than they had prior to the storm. We're still assessing the damages. We know that there's 5 spans that have to be replaced. Potentially, there could be more. The position of the Florida Department of Transportation is that we do not want a repaired bridge. We want a bridge that will last 75 years. So every repair is under the same engineering scrutiny as the construction that we saw when the bridge was opened. That is a hurdle that may be disappointing to some people. There probably is the ability to do a makeshift over the bridge, but that's not going to happen. We're very deliberate in our discussions with Skanska, and we expect them to perform according to the contract. Concerning the Garcon Point Bridge and the governor, I want to congratulate the governor for extending it 30 days, the toll. Of all the emails I've ever gotten since I've been elected, we've gotten more emails and more concerns about that toll. There is some anxiety. People are already looking past 30 days and say, what happens after 30 days? I can assure you there is a plan in effect. The governor position is that he does not want this to be on the backs of the taxpayers. So he's expecting the parties that have liabilities and those private entities such as the Santa Rosa County Bridge Authority to get together and to work out an agreement on how to deal with the payment of those tolls or the discounted payments. I believe that's going well, but if it's not resolved within 30 days, I have every assurance from the governor's office that we are not going to place those tolls on the backs of our citizens. What that looks like in 30 days, I can't tell you, but I can tell you this is a very complicated formula of dealing with a document, a 1,000-page document that regulates the Garcon Point Bridge and also the responsibilities of Skanska. I want to insert this, that we had a very straightforward conversation with the governor's office about the need to extend the suspension. The governor was given information that I think assured him that it would not be on the backs of the people. And at some point, I can articulate that to you. But we are committed to making sure that people have not the way that they've normally gotten to work or back from work, but it's not going to break them financially, and that's our commitment. So we're looking for a good outcome, and hopefully we will give you a report as it occurs. We should know a damage report and the estimated time to complete the repairs next week. Now I also have my partner, Representative Andrade, that certainly has been doing quite a bit of investigation and research, and if he would like to say something now, I welcome him. But before we do that, the City of Pensacola's Mayor, Grover Robinson.
Thanks, Senator Proxy. Derek, thank you for that work that you've been doing. I was on that call with DOT, and again, anything we can do, we again expressed, we had a meeting today, and I believe tomorrow there's a meeting with Escambia County and other entities on looking at ferries, so we continue to look that through. We're working to get our facilities back up to speed and running. Certainly when it comes to, at least today, at least you can't get the IA without the PA. So at least getting the PA today, it begins us in the right step. Listening to what Commissioner Berry says, it's really going to be up to us to then get that information in. I can assure you, when I went to the Pensacola Village apartments to feed, there were people talking about what they lost in their refrigerators and everything else that ended up because of 5 or 6 days of no power. So there are a tremendous amount of stories that you don't get when you're in a car or when you're in a plane and you're surveying. So again, that's why we need you to communicate what your losses were and we will continue to push that. But again, we can't even go to the IA level until we got the PA level. So at least the PA level is done, and we know where we are, and we'll be going forward. The city continues to work on those things. We have a number of items out there. I just kind of want to tell you today, we've now picked up 383 loads of yard debris, totaling over 15,500 cubic yards since Monday. Again, we're asking you to place loose items there at the curb for pickup, but separate. Please separate. And if you need to see how to separate, please look at our website at cityofpensacola.com that has that. Plastic bags are also prevent the city from receiving FEMA reimbursement for yard debris collection. So again, please do not bag your yard debris with plastic bags. Just put it out to the street. These are things that are fairly essential for us in what we have going forward. However, I don't want to end the day on all the challenges that we are doing. Part of our resiliency is who we are and what we've been able to do going forward. Today, at least, I want to announce tomorrow, for many of you out there watching, there is an opportunity. There's one of the things that we certainly think of near and dear to our heart of what represents us in Escambia County and the city of Pensacola. It's certainly on the Escambia County seal are the Blue Angels. They fly all over to fly opportunities for missions that are looked at for morale and what happens. So when they called us and said, hey, we'd like to do one for our city, we said this is the right thing to happen. They will be flying tomorrow for us. They will be out there flying. Again, they plan to have flyovers over Pensacola Beach, Perdido Key, Community Maritime Park, Palafox Street downtown, and fire stations, Pensacola Fire Stations 1, 3, and 4. So they will be visible from many locations tomorrow in the city of Pensacola, and that will be taking place at around 8:20. They start at 8 o'clock, and it will be a tribute to the city of Pensacola in dealing with Sally. So we look forward to that relationship that we have with the U.S. Navy here and the Blue Angels, and we certainly appreciate them showing their support for all that you're doing. So we hope you'll come out tomorrow and see the Blue Angels, and then as soon as you're done with that, we want you to go in and get on the computer and write your story about what impacted you and the impacts you've had from Hurricane Sally, so we can submit that for our IA. But thank you very much, and I will now call up Representative Alex Andrade.
Okay, so Representative Andrade would prefer not speak at this time. So we have always tried to end this with sharing with you how you can communicate with us. One of the ways we've asked you to communicate with us is through our Citizens Information Line, which is 471-6600. We also have our Facebook, our Twitter, and our myescambia.com Storm Center. So with that, we'll take questions.
Commissioner Berry, is there a dollar threshold that we need to hit for the IA that we have to prove the damage?
Unfortunately, no. I think it would be much. I think it would be much better if.
We just know that we don't have enough.
That's correct. It would. I think all of us operate in systems where there are rules and objective things that you can meet to find out what standardized issues. There's not. It's clearly. It was re-articulated today that it's clearly a subjective issue, which is some degree of my passion and urgency. That's scary. It scares me to hear that it's a subjective feel, because the thought of our community not receiving that, and if John Doe makes an application to FEMA and is denied, that's one thing. If he doesn't have the opportunity to apply for that direct assistance, that's unfair, and we have had a tremendous loss, and that's unfair to our citizenry to not have the opportunity to apply. The merits of everybody's situation is going to warrant the award, but we have to have the opportunity for our people to apply, and it's concerning to know that it's not a dollar threshold.
Right.
Do you know what the current private dollar amount of damage is at this point from the story you all collected and assessments?
I do not, unless Janice has any other I do not. I don't know that we're being provided any type of benchmark data or time data as we're going, or cumulative or aggregate data as we're going on. We get a lot of that on the public assistance side or the public damage side, but we haven't seen anything that shows. You have now submitted $100 million of individual losses. We don't know what that is.
We are still working on that calculation, and we'll probably break 100 million.
Senator Broxton, just a second. You know, you talked about this is a different FEMA type. Could you elaborate just a little bit more about what you're talking about? That we seem to have checked the boxes that worked before that aren't working now?
It's a different, I can tell you that dealing with both administrators, what we've done in the past, and unfortunately we have done this in the past, we're getting a different response. Some of that could be that we've not gotten the attention. FEMA is always under some pressure. We know that from Katrina. They actually rewrote programs, a road home program that gave everybody a certain amount of dollars who had flood damages. We're very concerned, and we expressed that to Tallahassee today, that we need them to exert their power on whoever they have to make sure that whatever application we send up there, complete or incomplete, is responded to. We, historically, I've never seen them not writing checks at this point. Very disappointing, and that's after having the director here this weekend. And I think Commissioner Berry and the mayor said it well. You can't see from 1,000 feet what's inside someone's living room, or the fact they've lost everything, and the fact they had the ability to put it on the road, and therefore they have no need. We have to wait. People have to wait and someone visually see their damages. These are narratives that are uncommon to us, and that we've always been given the benefit of the doubt. Now we have to certify and validate everything that's going to them. And very disturbing. I know it's particularly disturbing for Santa Rosa today that they were not part of the declaration. They've done everything they've had to do. The reason they went to Santa Rosa later than they went to Escambia, they're working their way down to 11 different counties. And I think you're going to see the frustration build as they go to all the impacted counties, that they'll get the same response we've gotten. But as far as these two counties doing what they're supposed to do, they've done it. They've just gotten a different response.
Thank you.
This question for anyone, I guess, could you comment on, we've been in a pandemic and people have been spending their savings if they've been out of work, maybe at the beach or something. Now they get hit and they have no money for deductibles, and they're maybe counting on this FEMA assistance to help, and they're left with repairs to their homes. And what are they supposed to do?
I think that was a story that hit home to me that I heard multiple times when I went to go visit on Sunday at the Pensacola Village when we dealt with a food distribution there from the Salvation Army. I talked at length to a lady who had done that, and that's exactly what I was going to say. We had about $15 million in building damages. Again, that's building damages estimate of private building damages, but it doesn't explain all the things that were lost, as you said. I mean, I think I had in here, we collected over the last couple of days. We've collected over 817 tons of garbage, which is significant for us. That's probably because it's a lot of people's freezers. I know my black can was totally filled because we had to empty out our freezer and our refrigerator. But when there are people in Pensacola Village apartments and they had to do all that, as you said, they've spent their money now on that, and now they have nowhere else to go in sense of food that they had lost. So again, this is what we're probably going to need, some assistance with those people writing those stories, telling those stories, so we can tell them, because even when you drive in a car, you can't see that. But there's no doubt, at least the things we've collected, we'll put forward and let people know what's out there, and again, the loss that has happened because of this. And as you said, part of that's there. I think part of the thing is we certainly find ourselves challenged in this year with COVID, but again, we will, I think in past years, we would have totally qualified for the individual assistance, so we will continue to work and push as best we can to get there, but we need your help, and I'll let Commissioner Berry add to that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm not going to reiterate exactly what Grover said. It's all true. We'll never know. We'll never know the real number, even if we have an aggregate for buildings or structures, because we're not going to know. We're not going to know the perishables that are gone. We're not going to have the value of the couches. We're not going to have the carpet and the drywall that has to be redone. The damages that are more soft aren't necessarily your frontline damages. But one thing that we did have a board meeting this morning. One thing that was that I thought was a very, very good outcome out of that. Escambia County allocated $9.5 million to the individual assistance portion of out of our CARES allocation, and at $2,000 a household, that's nearly 5,000 households that could be affected. At a full $2,000 apiece, that's a substantial impact into a community that is hurting, and it has been a very difficult year. I'm comfortable that we have that. I would hope that we wouldn't go through that money that quickly, but between the pandemic and then the events of the last week, I'm relatively confident that we're going to get a deluge of applications, and with the knowledge that there's a very good chance a lot of that money may go to deductibles, may go to things that that they hadn't known 2 weeks ago that they would actually need the money for, but that's some, not rainbow, but it's some good news, some hope that's out there, I think, for some people, and we'll start taking those applications tomorrow for the next few days.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Does anybody have any idea how many people were actually left homeless by the storm, and what are they doing locally to try to find housing for these folks?
So that's going to be someone else. Yeah.
So we don't have the total number yet. One of my last conversations with Gulf Power was specifically related to how many of our citizens would not be able to have power restored, whether it be because of water or because of continued damage to the home. They are still working on that number, but that's one piece of the puzzle, because we need to know how many people are going to need those services. From a homeless perspective at this point, all we can do is continue to gather the information that we have. Our Citizens Information Line is a very good way in which people can contact us and provide that information. I know that 211 is also another place in which you can share your story and get your information out. But prior to the storm, Escambia County had very few units left of affordable housing. I think that this is a crisis not only in our community but across the country. We continue to hear that affordable housing just isn't necessarily available. And so I think if anything that comes out of this, hopefully people will have more of a recognition of the need for affordable housing in our community and trying to find ways in which we can help others. I do know that if there are areas that have units that are available, they have been very generous to let our housing folks know that they have those units available. And so I do know that they are working on an inventory of what's available.
I have one more question for you.
Janice, on
Okay.
a follow-up on that is, my understanding is Waterfront Mission is not able to handle what it was doing, and that was 40 individuals that are there. We are working through that, and we are well aware of the challenges, but between COVID knocking out things like loaves and fishes, and then the hurricane finishing off things like Waterfront, there just has the supply of shelter space is dwindled dramatically. So we are trying to look and see what we can do. We're working through that, but again, these are things I don't think most people realize what happened with it, sort of the double hit of COVID and now Sally, and so we're out there trying to figure out that portion of it. The good news is we're going to have some seasonable weather, and hopefully before things really change for anything, we'll be able to figure out a better solution. But we've been looking at that. We've been working through our affordable housing. We plan to have a couple things that we're moving forward. It couldn't come at a better time for us to begin implementing, but those are things we're absolutely working on.
Okay. My last question I had for you guys was the housing issues is going to be addressed as a multi-agencies unit. That's going to be at Lexington Terrace. How is that going to be handled?
I'm sorry, you said the multi-agency response?
Yes, multi-agency response.
So what the individuals will do is they will go to Lexington Terrace, and we were informed that there were about 25 families that did not have an alternative option at this point. That was the last number I was given. I'm not going to say that it was the number that was impacted. Pre-storm, there were about 198 families. Post-storm, it's my understanding that they were able to get in touch with 128 of those families. There are, like I said, 25 that may not have an alternative option at this point. But any person who was a resident of Lexington Terrace of Forest Creek, we definitely want them to go to Lexington Terrace to see these services. All of these agencies are working very closely to try and provide the services that these residents need and get them into a safe, secure housing.
Have you heard from any federal representatives, Representative Gates or Senators Rubio or Scott about the FEMA assistance today?
I have heard from Senator Scott. He has, and I will not say that the others, because I have not heard from them, are not also taking action. I want to be very clear. Senator Scott made a phone call last night to FEMA Regional Director for Gracia to continue his express of support for an individual assistance for our communities. And I will tell you that they once again reiterated, as you've heard from these gentlemen, that we need to document our need. This is a different storm. It is a different situation when you look at COVID and you look at the way that the agencies are operating. And then I think one of the other things too is that we have been talking about the way that we recover and the way we are resilient. We don't want that to be something that works against us. I think that our community has worked really well together, and everybody has pulled together, and we should not be penalized for that. And so that was part of Senator Scott's message whenever he and his staff spoke. And so I would just assume that the other senators and Congressman Gates are also making those calls on all of our behalf.
You guys mentioned that this was a time-sensitive thing with the responses from the residents. Is there a deadline that FEMA has put out and saying, we need to have all these in by this time to make sure we,
No, I would not say there's a deadline, but this is what I would say. We're a week, and so we've had Houston, right? You still have wildfires in the West. You had, matter of fact, we were on the phone the other day with Director Moskowitz, and while we're on the phone with him, there are eastern counties on the Atlantic asking for an emergency declaration because they have a nor'easter pushing water in. So what happens is the farther you are from an event, the less likely you're going to get that response, because something else, as Commissioner Berry said, has now taken the precedent, has now taken the forefront. And so that's why we are putting that time frame on ourselves and our community to try and get that drumbeat and get that information out there and up to them. Okay?
Representative Andrade or Senator Broxton, has there been any discussion about the FDOT contractor Skanska paying for private property damage where their barges washed ashore? Any discussion about that?
No, there's been no public discussion about paying for.
Not public discussion in meetings and with officials or with the contractor.
Not at this time. My understanding is that contractors have been sent out to homes to assess the ability to get those barges out of people's backyards and off public property. But there's been no discussion about, at least not with state entities like myself, about compensation like in that form that you're asking about.
What do you think about it? What are your thoughts on who should pay for that damage?
That's a fact-specific question when you're talking about who should be specifically liable. The assessment on the bridge is ongoing. I think most people understand what caused the damage to the bridge and who owned the barges. So I think once the facts are actually established publicly, based on experts and investigations, I think we'll all have the answers we need on that one.
Let me follow up on that if I could. I think Skanska did communicate to me that they do consider those, 12 barges that are on private property to be a direct responsibility, and they're in contact with those people. They have a team on the ground now trying to negotiate with the owners of the property about how to remove their equipment and what compensation they feel like they are entitled to.
All right. Well, again, thank you. I've thanked you all many times for coming and spreading the message and sharing with the community, the information that we have. So thank you all again.
We'll just sell them and put them in the alley.